brothers and sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice. Oh, let us all Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed. Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice. Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey.
There I am. I was very small there for a moment. I thought it was Tom Thumb or some Lilliputian or something. I don't know. Welcome to the program. I was way over the corner. Nice to have you here. It's Friday, everybody. We made it to Friday together. Congratulations to all of you, and to producer Chad for putting up with me for the full course of the week. He's turned his camera off, though. He may be imbibing on mimosas and celebratory drinks. So we've made it through another week of the House of Lakey Unleashed Streamcast podcast, etc. It's the 9th day of May, year of our Lord 2025. As the choir has just informed you, I am Jimmy Lakey. And the reason we call it the Unleashed Streamcast and podcast is because for years I spent time in corporate radio, and I have been unleashed from the confines of corporate radio and corporate media. And here we are together just doing a little show this morning. A little information, a little entertainment, and conversation is what we do. And I'm glad to have you here on the program. Today's a big day. Doug Giles comes on the program. He was absent last week. My brother from a different mother, that's coming up in about 1 hour from right now. Doug Giles will be with me, and you don't want to miss that. So that's later in the program. We'll wrap up the week with Doug Giles and his take on the world, and it's always quite unique. You never want to miss Doug Giles on the program when he's with me, and he's coming up here in just, again, 1 hour from right now. Wherever you're watching from, viewing from, listening from, if you're watching it live, you, of course, have the opportunity to interact with us. If you're watching us on, listening to us later as a podcast, you can always send us an email. I'd love to hear from you. info@jimmylakey.com. info@jimmylakey.com. That's all things Lakey there. But I'll tell you this, that many of you are watching live. And as you watch live throughout the morning, you can comment on any of the program platforms you're on. If you're on Facebook, several Facebook feeds out there, just make a comment, hit send, and it shows up right here into the studio. Rumble, the same thing. YouTube does the same thing. Haven't heard not a lot of YouTubers. That people are afraid to go on YouTube to watch me because they know that it's just a matter of time before the YouTube, the tube that starts with a U, will kick my fanny to the back to the side. But we've survived a couple of months now of YouTube without any further suspensions. So we're doing very good. The gods of YouTube must be liking us. All right. Yesterday, big news. As soon as the show was over, I was doing some work in my office, and my alert started going off on my phone and said, "We have smoke. We have smoke." And I'm thinking, well, I'm not smoking a cigar right now, so I think they mean papal smoke. And sure enough, the white billows were coming out of the chimney there at the Sistine Chapel or wherever they were at. And out walks a pope. And it was funny to hear all the commentators. Well, it's going to be this person or that person. It won't be this person. Could be this person, but he's an American, and American's never going to become a pope. It's kind of taboo. And then they come out and say, this guy's born in America. He was born in the United States of America. And he's out there doing his United States thing, but he was a missionary to Peru. And he has become the first American pope. Now, here's how silly people get. I saw this discussion online. He is not the first American pope. Okay, hold on. He is, if you view America, that we are America. Everybody else is Latin America, South America, Central. We're America, right? So that's because technically Francis was an American pope, and some people were trying to parse words on that yesterday. But I think all of us who say he's the first American pope, I think we know what we're talking about. Yes, Pope Francis was a cardinal out of Argentina, which is a South America, but I don't think the Argentinians refer to themselves as Americans. I think they refer to themselves as Argentinians. So anyway, it's funny to see people getting into discussion. He is not the first American pope. I'm like, really, if you're online trying to correct people from calling him the first American pope, you probably need a hobby. You really do, because I think everybody knows what it means. Born in Chicago, evidently a White Sox fan, according to his brother. Pope Leo is the name he chose. Everybody was trying to parse what it is. that he meant by taking Pope Leo. Everybody knew from Francis took Francis. It was St. Francis of Assisi, and he was known to help the poor and the needy and the least among these, if you will. And so he took on that name. So everybody's going back a century going, what was Pope Leo? Well, Pope Leo the 13th was the very first Pope to be televised. So the television modern era. So maybe he modernized it. I don't know. Everybody's trying to read into what the name meant, and they're just going through different versions of what Pope Leos have meant in the past, and they're so old that they're trying to find the parallels. So the proof will be in the pudding. We shall see. Some people say he's a centrist candidate. One of my more conservative Catholic friends said, I have a feeling he's a bat crap crazy liberal. There's a story that I have on my show sheet in which they say he's Francis with maybe a little bit more temperament. He's going to have a little bit more sereneness about him. So I don't know. I'm not Catholic, my friends. If you're Catholic, I'd love to get your take on it. It seemed to be an elation celebration there in Rome yesterday. But by yesterday afternoon, I'm watching some of the news channels, kind of scrolling through to see what I might be missing. And it was nonstop Pope coverage. And that's fine. It's again, it is a news story. Don't get me wrong. But here's a question for you. It is a question of real seriousness. Did they overcover this yesterday? Was this really the news story that they pretend it is? I mean, it's fascinating. It's information. It's entertaining. There's a lot of mystery behind it. It's a lot of marketing. I mean, the white smoke, the black smoke. I mean, it really is a news story. But I mean, by the time 6, 7 o'clock rolled around last night, I'm like, can we stop? I know we have the first American Pope. I know that his name is Leo. I know that I know all this. So where does this news cease? Now you say, well, it's a Catholic church. They represent billions of people. Okay, true that. But catch this. I looked it up, and evidently only about 20%, 19 to 20% of Americans refer to themselves or identify as Catholic or Roman Catholic. And I would guess if those are kind of like how many percentage of people call themselves Southern Baptist. Just because you call yourself Southern Baptist doesn't mean that you believe in the intricacies of all the things and know all the intricacies of how the Southern Baptist denomination is working out there. Pick any denomination. So my point becomes, if only 20% of Americans say they're Catholic, this choice as the Pope probably didn't of that 20%, maybe, let's say half of those people really gave a rat's patootie. Okay, 70%, and they covered it nonstop. Is it just me? Am I being kind of a get off my lawn cranky guy? Or was there a little bit, are they still obsessing over this thing as if it affects all of us? Again, there's intrigue, there's branding. The white smoke coming from the chimney, they've really staged this well. It's like the NFL staging their draft. They've made it an entertainment thing. I mean, marching bands came through into St. Peter's Square. I mean, it was fascinating watching the pomp and the circumstance. They have really made it a media spectacle. But did the media, in your estimation, I know it only happens once. Maybe this guy, he's only 69 years old, so this could be this guy could be Pope for 20 years. I mean, he could be the Pope for many of you the rest of your lives. I mean, this could be a big one. He'll be a long guy. But did the media just kind of overhype it, overcover it? I at some point I'm like, okay, I get it. I was fascinated by the smoke. I was fascinated by the pomp, the Swiss Guard, those costumes they wear. Those are phenomenal uniforms, aren't they? I was looking up, what does it take to be a Swiss Guard? How do you become a Swiss Guard? I'm doing all this stuff, but I was done with this by like noon or 1 o'clock. And then all day long, it was Pope. And again, not trying to be sacrilegious, not trying to be cranky, but does anybody else kind of getting tired of the papal coverage yesterday? And even this morning, I was watching some of the news channels. I changed my schedule up and got up a little earlier and did a little movement and took a little walk around the estate this morning. And I was like, they're still talking about it. It was as if Jesus himself had returned. Now, I know if you're Catholic, you may believe that that's partially kind of a true statement. Hold on. I'm tired of it. Anybody tired of the Pope yet? We love you, Leo. We really do. But anybody else think that it's a little bit too much coverage yesterday? Love to get your thought on that. But congratulations to Pope Leo. Seems like a nice guy. I don't know. I don't know if he's liberal. I don't know if he's conservative. The fact is no one does. So we'll find out. We'll find out exactly how that all works out. And God bless you, Catholics. That's all I can say. All right. Jim jumps in on the chat, says, good morning from the interesting city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's a hellhole that makes Denver seem like one of the safest cities in the U.S. I don't know, Jim. Statistically, Denver leads the U.S. in a lot of crime things. So maybe Minneapolis. I don't know what your statistics are, Jim, but I don't know if Minneapolis could make Denver look any worse, because the statistics say that Denver's gone to hell in the handbasket. Jim, are you usually in Minneapolis? Aren't you somewhere else? I can't keep up with where everybody watches the show from, but we have some regulars out there. Good morning, Jim. Our Lois says, yes, it was over yesterday. I have a feeling that's referring to the Pope and the coverage is there. Yeah, it was over-covered. She corrected herself. Over-covered yesterday. At some point, it was just, okay, we're done with this thing, and I appreciate it. Now, I don't know. I don't usually watch the Newsmax, but I turned it on the Newsmax, and they were still going crazy over it. And again, important story, yes. A little bit overdone, probably so. And hopefully we can move on to different topics. Was it a slow news day? I don't know. It's just, that was what the media wanted to cover incessantly yesterday. All right, here's a story that the media is probably not going to cover for you. But I've been talking about our glorious state where I broadcast and streamcast and podcast from and live and reside and have my roots and stakes here for 20, 25 years, right? In the great state, the beautiful state of Colorado, colorful Colorado. And we kind of talk about how it is that Colorado has gone to hell in a handbasket. And we have a governor that has a case of California envy. He looks at California and says, how do you get by with these crazy laws? I want to do that as well. His name is Jared Polis, and he's a threat to America. Let's just use their own language against him when he runs for president. Well, this is a story that I found interesting that in California, and I'm sure Jared Polis, our governor in Colorado, and some of you other people that have bat crap crazy governors are probably looking and going, wow, could we get by with a bill like this? This would be fascinating. This would be fascinating. Listen to this. The California Democrats have reversed course. They had a bill that made, basically reversed course, partially restoring a bill that made soliciting children for prostitution a felony after they gutted the felony language from the bill. The Democrats in California were putting a bill up there about offenders and minors and children and prostitution. And they said, oh, that's a little harsh if you solicit a child for prostitution. We don't want to make that a felony. So they gutted that from the bill in California. And Gavin Newsom actually supported the gutting of the bill. He said, yeah, we don't mind making a felony. I mean, God forbid, they're just soliciting children. And that's kind of the mentality of it. For adult offenders at least 3 years older than the minor, prosecutors will now have new tools to bring felony charges. In a statement, when the adult offender is within 3 years of the minor, solicitation remains illegal and a misdemeanor. But despite support for the original bill from California Governor Gavin Newsom and the Lieutenant Governor, Democrats previously voted to strip the authorship and remove the felony provision. They had removed the felony provision, and a national outrage hits and said, what are you California Democrats thinking that you could get by with taking away a felony if somebody's just soliciting a child for prostitution, someone less below the age of consent, the age of legality, and you don't want it to be a felony if you don't want it. And the national spotlight hit the Democrats there. And when the spotlight hit the Democrat, the demonization of their policy went away, and suddenly they amended it and put it back in there. I just wanted to point this out because I think it's fascinating what will happen when politicians, specifically Democrats, get together. And again, you got to always have light on all politicians. Republicans, Democrats, they're sneaky, they're scoundrels, and they'll always try to do something. But it is amazing some of the crazy stuff they had come up with in the California Democrat Party when no one's looking, paying attention to the Colorado legislature. We have passed bills with the all Democrat-led majority in which we are now one of the leading places, a source like a Disneyland. If you wanted abortion, we've created an abortion tourist fascination land. We've gone up 65%. Barack Obama one day said abortion should be legal but rare and very rarely used. But under Jared Polis and the crazy Dems here in Colorado, abortion has gone up 65%. People are aborting more than ever. And when most people don't know that in Colorado because you don't pay attention to the state legislature. How many people in California actually knew that there were Democrats that, had the spotlight not hit them, had yanked the felony provision out of child soliciting a child for prostitution and sex acts, and they was going to just be a misdemeanor. If you're a 40-year-old man hooking up with a 12-year-old, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be a misdemeanor if you solicit for prostitution. So anyway, the amended bill is back to its normal state, but it just goes to show you, my friends, the heart and the soul of these people it's playing out in front of us, and it's not always pleasant. It's not always pleasant, and no protection of children there in the state of California. Same way there's no protection for children in the abortion clinic as well when the certain party gets in charge. Just throwing that out there for your consideration. Who is the Pope? Anybody want to talk about Pope again? All these stories are flashing in my screen still that he's a liberal, he's a conservative. I don't know what he is. I really don't know. There was speculation. Now, there's of the cardinals that got to vote, 103 of them, of the 140, had been appointed by Pope Francis. And evidently Francis, again, not Catholic, some of you can speak to this, had opened up large parts of the world with Catholic leadership. He had appointed cardinals, more cardinals out of Africa, more cardinals out of Asia, different places where cardinals had not been necessarily as prolific. And there's some speculation that they had the first 2 or 3 votes, and the conservatives had their candidate and the liberals had their candidate, and they knew they're not going to get anywhere. And so they had to come together with a consensus candidate. And perhaps some of the more conservative people out of Africa, especially some of the most conservative cardinals, come from Africa. Those cardinals were okay because they had been dealing with who became Pope Leo, Mr. Prevost. They had been dealing with him because he was in the Vatican overseeing the bishops and screening bishops, etc. So anyway, I don't know what happened yesterday, but everybody's still trying to figure it out. And every news story I go to is it's out there, and people are talking about the Pope and the papal convention. And I have to ask you, do you think that it was overcovered yesterday? And I just have that question for you today. All right, anybody see Joe Biden go on The View yesterday? I don't watch The View. I didn't want to watch The View. I watched more of it than I should. Let me play a snippet. This is before Dr. Jill Biden got on the stage with him, I believe. He was out there for a while. Then she came to rescue him. And they were asking him about the election. They were asking him about whether or not he, whose fault it was. How did they lose? What about Kamala? And they get to a point of the interview. They ask him about his mental decline, his cognitive ability. And he stumbled and bumbled over that, and Jill had to grab his hand and talk to him. It was really bizarre. And I don't know if there's a publicist that's booking Joe. Joe would do better right now to just not do these kind of things. This is not a good look on Joe, in my opinion. All right, I'm going to play this video. This is a couple-minute clip from The View yesterday. And just it's not just what he says, but it's how he says it. It's the troubledness, is like his dentures are slipping. And again, age is going to catch all of us one day. But anybody it's unbelievable that they think that we're not going to believe that he is. Jill said anybody writing those books about Joe being dingy in the head, they weren't in the White House with us. They don't really know. Joe was always up late. That phone would ring at 2 a.m, and he was sharp as a tack. Does anybody believe Jill Biden? I don't think there's any believability left in that woman. And because of the fact that I believe what she did for the perch of power was elder abuse, I think she's probably not a very nice lady. Anyway, this is Joe Biden yesterday on The View. And let me ask you, do you miss him? Anybody miss this guy? Well, here we go. Play it.
Last time you were here was a little over a month before the election, and you had made the selfless and very difficult decision, I'm sure, to step aside. And Democrats were feeling optimistic about.
All right, hold on. Joe Biden did not make a selfless decision. Joe Biden got his ass pushed out of the way. Joe Biden had no choice except to step away. It was a coup in the Democrat Party. So I don't know who this jackwagon journalist Ed that has her makeup all pretty and her hair done, and she's reading the script. Is there anybody that could refute that Joe Biden was a statesman? Remember Nancy Pelosi herself, Botox Nancy, San Fran Nan. What did she say? She said, I'm thinking he's like Mount Rushmore. He did such a noble thing. He just stepped down because he wanted to. No, he stepped down because your Botoxed ass pushed him over to the side and threatened him with his life, and probably threatened him with all sorts of stuff. So again, the narrative, you know where the interview is going when the bimbo at The View says, that selfless act that you did. We know it wasn't a selfless act because Jill Biden, at the end of the administration before the inauguration, lashed out at Nancy Pelosi and those people that attacked Joe Biden and shoved him to the side. So this jackass reporter at or host of The View is first of all showing she's just an absolute blatant bona fide idiot, that she's still pushing the narrative that he was such a statesman to step out of the race. Okay, now we have framed that this person's an idiot. Now let's go to the idiot former president. Go ahead.
Vice president's chances of winning the presidency. But then election night came, and it was like 2016 all over again. Yeah. So why do you think the vice president lost, and were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president was the most qualified person to be president. She is. She's qualified to be president.
First of all, are his dentures slipping? Seriously, I mean, it gets worse and worse every time you hear him. No, because I didn't think she's qualified president. She is the most qualified person to be president. Okay, if you believe that, Joe, someone should say, what makes her qualified to be president? What are her accomplishments that make her qualified? Again, Joe's such gone in the head. His brain is at such level of rot and dementia that he just continues to repeat the talking points that America has refuted, and America knew that she was not qualified to be the president. And yet he goes, she's the most qualified person to be president. And there's very few people in America that believe that. Most Democrats have come to the full recognition, whether they say it publicly in polite company, they've come to the full recognition that they probably screwed up and put the wrong candidate in there because they put an idiot who was not qualified to be president and was not even a likable human being. But again, he goes straight back to the talking points, and the jackasses on The View just let him slip into the talking points while his dentures slip around in his mouth. Continue, please.
States of America.
Yes,
But I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman. She's this. She's that. I mean, it really. I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country.
Okay, stop there. Is there anybody that remembers anything about the 2024 election just a couple of months ago, right? In which anybody was trying to convince you not to vote for Kamala because she was a woman? This is typical. We can't own our crap. We can't own our stupidity. We can't own the fact that our party is a chaotic mess and a bunch of despots run it. And they kicked Joe to the curb, and they didn't want a primary, and the Clintons hated the Obamas, and the Obamas, everybody hates everybody. And so they all endorsed Kamala because they didn't want Mike Obama or Michelle Obama to jump in. I mean, it's a whole big mess. And so when they asked Joe Biden what happened, it's not because of the dysfunction of his party. It's not because of the open border. It has nothing to do. You didn't vote for Kamala because you're a sexist. And he had never seen a campaign that was so focused on somebody being a woman. What campaign was this demented fool watching? Did you hear any campaign ads? Don't vote for Kamala. She's a woman. There was no, he says, I've never seen such a campaign in which they were so targeted on sexism. And yet I don't remember anybody saying that she wasn't qualified because she was a woman. Everybody said she wasn't qualified because she had done nothing to qualify herself. The reason she got an elected office, supposedly, allegedly, is that her nickname early on was Heels Up Harris. And she could cackle really good. And Joe Biden had to pick her because he said he would pick a woman as his VP. And there weren't that many women that had any kind of high level of national service. And he got stuck with her. The most qualified person, and everybody just hate her because she's a sexist. They're sexist. Well, Joe, by your own admission, you chose her because you're a sexist. You chose her because she's a woman. So it's okay for Joe to choose somebody that's not qualified because they're a woman, but you're going to vote against someone that's unqualified because they're a woman. Now you're a sexist. It makes no sense. But then what do you expect that Joe Biden is out there going to flap around and make no sense? But again, he saw the campaign. He had never seen a campaign so intent on taking down women. What campaign was this son of a gun watching? I don't know what he was watching. Somebody peed in his Cheerios and something happened. Go ahead.
And a woman of mixed race.
Yeah.
So you're not only sexist, she didn't win because she's of mixed race. Did you know Kamala's a mixed race? Evidently, there were campaigns. They were educating you. She's a mixed race woman. Now, how is it that you can elect? Obama was a mixed race guy, and he got elected. He had a cracker, and his mother was a cracker. His dad wasn't. So I mean, he was mixed race. America doesn't like mixed race people. Really, Joe? Again, let him keep talking. I hope that they'll just keep propping him out there and people can remember that this guy is still, they thought he was competent for the last 4 years. Go ahead.
They played that to a fairly well. In addition to that,
who played it?
One of the things happened, if you notice, and I'm going to be shorter, okay? I promise. Okay. She said, "Don't be Joe Biden. Be short."
I said.
Oh, they're just cackling at him. They're cackling at him like he's a Chippendale dancer taking his drawers off right now. And there they are cackling at him. Oh, with adulation and adoration. Yeah, it's really pathetic watching. Did you see how Whoopi looked at him? Whoopi looked at him like she hadn't had a meal in 3 days and he was a cheeseburger. I mean, she's on it. She's looking at him like, oh, I could eat you up, Uncle Joe, except you got poopy pants and you smell.
Anyway, make a long story short, all kidding aside.
All kidding aside.
Think about it.
Think about it.
Liberal democracies all across America, all across the world lost last time.
Yeah.
All across America. I think we underestimate the phenomenal negative impact that COVID had and the pandemic had on people, on attitudes, on optimism, on a whole range of things. So,
all right, stop there. I'm going to play more of this because I just think it's fascinating. Listen to what he said. Kamala lost. You're sexist, you're racist, you don't like mixed race women. And by the way, we're all hurting because of COVID. COVID was dead a couple of years ago, right? And so if America had not restored its sense of optimism, Joe, you were the leader. You supposedly got us out. We're unleashed from the bonds of COVID and the stupidity. And yet you're the guy, you and Fauci have put us up into all sorts of a tizzy and a frenzy. And he says, well, Americans just had negative attitude because of COVID. Well, COVID was over a year or two into your presidency. The great epidemic of it, pandemic of it was, or the plandemic was done. And so if you sensed a lack of optimism, Joe, you in your poopy pants had about 4 to 3 years to get out there and re-engage optimism, re-engage the American dream. You had all this opportunity to instill some kind of optimism into America. And if it wasn't there, and that's why Kamala lost the election, then you have nobody to blame except your own poopy pants self, because you didn't. If America was not feeling optimistic and America was still negative and not trusting the government, you were not doing anything to make them trust the government. And don't forget, Demented Joe, on your way out the door under the cover of darkness, you gave Anthony Fauci a pardon for all crimes that he committed against humanity. And you wonder why people are negative and not optimistic about you and your party continuing to lead? This guy's a bona fide idiot. He really is.
I was very disappointed, but I wasn't surprised. The only thing that surprised me is the excess to which they've gone in some of the attacks they've made.
Yeah. Well, when was the last time you...
Some of the attacks they made, they went to the excess. Oh, did they call him a Nazi? Did they try to lock her up? Did they try to put her in jail? Did they try to remove her off the ballot? What attacks? He was surprised at the level of attacks that were waged against Kamala. Someone should say, what were those attacks that so shocked you? But they don't do it. They just look at him like a bunch of fat women looking at a buffet at Las Vegas and hoping they can afford it. Look at those fat. They're just looking at it like, oh, yeah, those attacks were horrible. Oh, you mean the attacks where they tried to keep Kamala off the ballot? The attacks where they tried to lock her up for the rest of her life? Those attacks? Oh, yeah, those attacks. Those were pretty mean, weren't they, Joe?
Spoke with the vice president, and has she talked to you about what she wants to do next? Sought any advice? Maybe governor?
Yesterday, I talk to her frequently. We stay in touch, number one. Number two, she's sought my opinion. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
What to wear to the Met Gala.
That's exactly right. No, but all kidding aside, she's got a difficult decision to make about what she's going to do. Yeah. I hope she stays fully engaged. I think she's first rate. But we have a lot of really good candidates as well.
They hate her.
I'm optimistic. I'm not pessimistic about the future.
Well, Mr. President, you had previously said that you thought that you would have won. Since then, Donald Trump won all the battleground states and made inroads with almost every major demographic, from working class voters to Hispanic men to black men. Knowing what you know now, do you think you would have beat him?
Yeah, he's still got 7 million fewer votes.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people didn't show up. Number one. Number two, they're very close in those toss-up states. It was it wasn't a slam dunk. And look, every time I've been on the show, which I've been fortunate to be on more than once.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up.
Is that we talk, you guys don't focus on as much, and I think it's good, on polling numbers, but let me put it this way. He's had the worst 100 days any president's ever had.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah.
That's a fact. How is it a fact? The worst 100 days. He's still polling well. He's polling higher than the Democrats. The worst 100 days, some of us would view it's the best 100 days that any president has ever had. But then you got old cow Joy Behar chewing her cud over there like a cow looking at a new gate and going, oh, that's a fact. The only fact is that you're an ugly woman and that you're a nasty person, and all of those women out there. I mean, yeah. Anyway, try not to get personal, but it's just funny to watch this whole thing, and they just stare at him as if they have no hard questions for him. Joe, would you have won? Joe, would you have kicked Donald's ass? Would you have won? Why did Kamala lose? That's because everybody else is sexist. There's no introspective. There's no say we could have done things better. They're not asking him about him getting pushed to the curb. None of that. It's a joy fest with Joy Behar, and it really was disgusting. Anyway, then later on, you go back and watch it. I'm not going to bore you with any more of it, but go back and watch it. Dr. Jill Biden had to trump her butt out there, and she had to jump in because he couldn't finish a sentence. It was really pathetic. And yet they're still looking at him lovingly like, Joe, you could have won, right? You could have beat the mean orange man, right? You could have. It's always interesting. I got a question of the day right here. Speaking of here, Joe slurring his words and making no sense and probably drooling, and maybe he's pooped his pants right there. You never know if he was pooping while he was talking. You just never know how it's going for old Joe. But President Trump is talking about, the White House is talking about releasing the Biden-Hur audio. That is, if you recall, the special counsel, the special prosecutor that was looking into Joe Biden for his mishandling of classified documents. Hur said he did not criminally charge Biden with his mishandling due to the president's age and mental acuity following his October the 23 interview. And so in 2024, Biden asserted an executive privilege over the audio because people said, well, he says he wouldn't charge you because you came across as a doddering old fool and you couldn't even remember when you were vice president. Would you release we'll put the transcripts? You're not going to get the audio. The transcript was released. It took 2 months of fighting. They finally released a transcript, and yet they wouldn't release the audio. Well, Biden and his staff are now getting ready for a possible release. And the Hur audio will confirm, which is one of the biggest cover-ups in American history, according to a Trump advisor by the name of Mike Davis. But here's the question of the day. Do you think Donald Trump should go out there, or his administration should release the Hur audio? I would say yes, let's release the audio, because the fat women on The View and the demented old poopy pants man sitting in the middle of The View continue this narrative that everything's fine. There was nothing wrong in the White House. He was on the top of his game, and he's just a statesman that stepped aside for old Kamala Harris. Do you think they should release the audio interview between Biden and her? What say you? That is your question of the day, which means on whatever platform you're on, I want you to go make a comment and make the comment of yes or no. Jeff says Biden sounds better now while not trying to read on his corrected meds. He has been MIA for a while. I think they took him off the meds for a while. I think this might be the first time he got juiced up in a while. I think it is. Somebody says release that kind of audio will take an act of Congress. No, it can be released by the president. It can be released by the president. That is an executive branch function. The White House is considering it. The last month, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said Americans would be quite interested to hear the audio recordings of Hur's interview with Biden. There have been 2 Freedom of Information Act lawsuits to the Justice Department because, again, why it doesn't take Congress that the interviews are in the possession of the Justice Department, which is under the executive branch of government, and the executive branch can do as they wish. Now, they'll probably find some judge that says you can't release it, but ultimately they'll get that thing released. I say yes, because the Democrats continue to spin this lie, propping him up on a show like The View and try to make it You try to make it sound like he's normal and try to make it sound like there's nothing wrong with him. And I think it's just, you got to continue to just beat the narrative and say, beat their narrative and say, well, watch this interview and tell me that this guy's all there. Let's listen to the Ben-Hur, or the Hur interview, and let's listen to Ben-Hur. There's a reference there. Let's listen to it and see what they say. What say you? Do you think they should release the audio or not? That is your question of the day. If you're watching on the Rumble, if you're watching on the YouTube, if you're watching on the Facebook, if you're watching on the Twitter, do you think that audio should be released so the public can hear it? And I said Ben-Hur, but I meant Robert Hur. For those of you, Ben-Hur, look that one up as well. All right, that's your question of the day. Do you think that they should release that? Tell me, pray tell, if they should release that video and the audio of that, because we have the transcript, and he sounds like a fool in the transcript. But let's put the context to it and see how he sounds. The Hur audio will confirm, according to a Trump advisor, that this was one of the biggest cover-ups in American history. Even yesterday on The View, Dr. Jill Biden came out and said how impressive he was, and he was cognitively, he was alert, and he was aware, and he worked harder, and she'd be in bed, and he'd still be staggering in after a long day's work. Anybody believe that? I mean, the White House press corps was used to putting a cap on things at 2 p.m, which means there was going to be no further comment or activity by the president. It's all right there, but they let them go on The View and put out this lie. And I say, yes, release the audio. What say you? That's our poll question. That's our question. Marvina puts up a great question. Just guessing that release that if it was Trump. Yeah, you're right. They would that audio would have already been out if it were Trump. There's a couple of others I'm probably misreading on the screen. A couple of more out there. Let's quit dwelling on the past and continue to move forward. America is on track now. Release the Epstein list. Oh, Scott wants that Epstein list. I've got some news on that, by the way. Got some news on that. I'll play it here in just a minute. Hey, let's do this. I'm going to play a couple of days ago. We'll come back on our Epstein list. Let's do that. Amen, Scott, says Jeff. If you're listening to this podcast later, I'm reading comments that are coming in live on the screen, and they're just popping up like magic, and I'm reading those. So that's what I'm doing if you're listening to the podcast later. Here's a question for you. What are you doing next Saturday? Not tomorrow, but 1 week from Saturday. If you do not have our casino gala for Rivers Promise, the charity that you see listed behind me with the House of Lakey logo, if you do not have that on your bucket list or your to-do list or your tickets bought, I don't know what you're waiting for, but it's not good. It's not good that you're not registered. It's going to be a great event. And matter of fact, it was rainy in Colorado. It's a beautiful day in Colorado today and yesterday, but it was a rainy, cold springtime day. And producer Chad and I went to the Omni Interlochen Resort and Hotel, and I stood out in the rain in my coat, and I made this little recording for all of you as an invitation. riverspromise.org. Join us May 17th. And so this is me on site this past Monday. Go ahead. Lakey with Rivers Promise, and in just a few days, as a matter of fact, right now, just over a week, this room behind me will be filled with frolicking and festivities and casino games and Frank Sinatra. There's another F. Come join us for our annual casino gala. It's May the 17th, Saturday, right here at the Omni Interlochen Hotel and Resort, Broomfield, Colorado. You can register at riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Get registered, and I'll see you on May the 17th. May 17th, my friends. If you're not there, you are not a cool kid. If you want to be a cool kid, you'll be there. May the 17th, it's the registration price is going up. I think it's this weekend. I think it may be tomorrow, but maybe it's today. I don't know, but it's going up. It'll save you a couple of bucks. All the proceeds go to Rivers Promise. Our goal that night is to raise, are you ready for this? We're going to raise $50,000 is our goal. And it's a big goal. It's a hefty goal that will help us feed the kids there for pretty much the rest of the year and do some other projects that we need to do. But we've got to start focusing on building our school, our CapEx program. So we're trying to get ahead in our OpEx so that we can focus on our CapEx. And that's what we're trying to do. So you can help us. Now, if you're not going to be there next Saturday, so May 17th, if you're not going to be there, I'm very serious. I would ask you to consider going to our website, riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org. If you cannot be there, first of all, I hope you'll be there. I'd love to have all of you there, but get registered, get a ticket. It's casino games. There's a poker element, and it's all for fun. It's not like Vegas. It's not illegal gambling. We're not running a gambling ring. It's all education. It's all fun. So if you ever want to learn how to play craps, there's craps tables, and they'll help the dealers will help you learn how to play. And it's just a fun time. The best Frank Sinatra impersonator and / entertainer you've ever seen. He's going to be there on stage for a few hours. It's great food. Menus are being finalized. There's a cash bar. There's a fire that's it's a closed pavilion on both sides, but you can bring a cigar. There's a fire pit or two around on the property, and you can sit around there and just enjoy the evening in Colorado. It's going to be a great event, and it's May 17th, 1 week from tomorrow. And if you're not registered, you need to get registered. Now, if you're not going to be there and you can't be there, you don't want to be there, you're being a stubborn person and you don't want to be there because I've invited you and you're turning down my personal invitation to you. I'm jesting. If you can't be there, go to riverspromise.org and make a donation and say, hey, for casino, I'm not going to be there. Just make a note, casino, gala, or something like that. And what we will do is we will count your donations towards the $50,000 goal we have that night. Now, if you do go, this is not like bow your head, close your eyes, who's going to play. I don't think we're doing a paddle raise. I mean, we're not doing, it's really kind of a low key. There'll be a silent auction there. There'll be a couple of live auction items. And we're just going to invite people to give. And I'm not here to strong arm you. I'm not here to push you. And so it's not a high pressure event. It's going to be a fun event. But if you can't be there, please, I'm asking you, go donate now at Rivers Promise and write Gala in the comments or Vegas or something like that. It will count it towards the $50,000. That is our goal that night. That's my request of you that cannot attend. Thank you, and you're welcome. All right. Somebody mentioned the Epstein list. Anybody know the name James O'Keefe? There was a breakup and a fight with him and some investors at, I think, Project Veritas, right? And I think he's back with Project Veritas. I don't remember the whole split that happened, but James O'Keefe is in Project Veritas. They go in with undercover cameras and microphones, and they uncover the secrets of the underbelly, usually of the swamp and the politics, right? Well, I'm going to play a snippet. This is kind of an infomercial for the latest one. I saw that James O'Keefe put out a video that he was going dark for 72 hours and they're about to release something, and this one scared him. And I believe this is what scared him. And this audio, if you're not watching the screen, you might need to watch the screen. There's subtitles. This is one of the closest advisors to the royals, Prince Andrew's advisor. And here he is under microphone and a hidden camera, admitting that Andrew, in his opinion, was having relations with, let's say, underage people. And this may be why California was trying to take the felony out of the pedophilia, because I don't know. They're into this stuff, I guess. I don't know. But I want you to watch this, and then James O'Keefe's going to explain it. I'm not going to play the full snippet of it, but it might be something you want to go watch. James O'Keefe, Project Veritas. They have an undercover expose, and Prince Andrew is kind of the focus of it. And let me just play a snippet of it here right now. Go.
Andrew, he was in the Navy. He was 250 days.
You read the subtitle. He's 260 days. He never saw his kids.
He lied to me.
I was really pissed.
Epstein.
He lied about what?
I did a big thing in the Daily.
So O'Keefe's going to jump in here, but this is John Bryan, and he was Prince Andrew's crisis advisor and the royal family crisis advisor. They'll tell you more about who he is. But here he is under secret camera going, he never saw his kids. He was always at sea. He was in the Navy. And then he lied to me. What did he lie to me about? Epstein. Like, I don't know Epstein. I'm not close to him. And then he found out I was. He says, I, John Bryan, the advisor, he's talking to his friends. I did a big thing with the Daily Mail saying that I believed the Prince Andrew. I believed him. He was telling the truth. And this guy admits he wasn't. Here we go. Keep going. You're watching the subtitles. That's the context. And James O'Keefe's going to appear on screen here in just a second.
Mail saying that I believed Andrew. And then I found out he was lying. I was so pissed. No, he was underage girl.
Yeah, he was blanking underage girls.
John
That's
Bryan
cool.
has been a close confidant to the British royal family for a long time. He worked for Queen Elizabeth II, was, quote, best friends with Princess Diana, and had a long-term intimate relationship with the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson. According to Bryan, he practically raised Sarah Ferguson's children, the princesses Beatrice and Eugene. And Bryan said that he maintained a friendship with Ferguson's husband, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew.
Tell me like your story.
So he goes on. You might want to go check it out. It's O'Keefe Media. Look up Project Veritas. But it's a whole expose on Prince Andrew and the Epstein list. Now, supposedly that Epstein list is still going to be coming, and we'll see when it does show up. but it's not out there yet. So it's Project Veritas. James O'Keefe is back. Somebody mentioned the Epstein list, so I wanted to throw that out there, that O'Keefe is digging into it. And this is the one that O'Keefe said he was afraid of. He was afraid to release this, so this one I'm a little scared because the same way Epstein didn't hang himself, so far, goodness knows, and we're happy that James O'Keefe is still alive. But you're starting to poke the hornet's nest there, James, and the global elites and their fascination with the little ones, evidently. And it kind of ties you back to that story in California that says, what is this fascination with the, in a sense, decriminalization about doing the things that these people have been accused of doing? And in California, they're trying to take the felony out of it. So really bizarre behavior. All right, good to have you here on the program. Breaking news story right before the show started is the former SCOTUS Justice David Souter has passed away. He was, of course, a justice that was appointed by George H.W. Bush, served on the court for about 20 years. Because he was appointed by H.W. Bush, everybody was hoping he would be kind of conservative. He was not as bat-crap crazy liberal as, Sotomayor or something, but he was not a true safe vote. He sided with the liberal side of the court more than the conservative side. And for years, it's brought up the question. He's always now the example of why is it that when Republicans appoint people, they sometimes become a little bit more crazy and liberal but liberals, when they get appointed, they're on the court, they stay true to their cause. It's a great question, but Souter is the one in our modern lifetime that really brought about that question. But Souter was, if you remember the story, George H.W. Bush wasn't that familiar with Souter as one of his advisors that said, take this judge. He was not a prominent judge. He was not a top tier judge, not necessarily in the pool of people normally would become a SCOTUS judge. But H.W.'s advisor said, choose this guy, and he's got the bona fides to be who he wanted him to be. And once he got on the court, he turned out to be liberal. But he died at the age of 85. Retired Justice David Souter has died as of this morning at the age of 85. I talk often about our governor in Colorado, Jared Polis. I mentioned this yesterday. I'm going to put it out on the social media sites today. There's a magazine that is supposedly the keeper of all things libertarian, small government, libertarian, and it's called Reason Magazine. And Reason has been one of those libertarian-type publications that has perpetrated the lie and allowed the narrative and the propaganda to be that Jared Polis, our governor in Colorado, is a libertarian. Well, he's not. Well, there's a piece at Reason. We'll dive into it more next week because I think it's fascinating. But there's a piece at Reason that basically they're taking the stamp off and saying, he's not a libertarian, is he? Whoever ran with that story, Reason that he was a libertarian, probably should be scolded or taken by the woodshed, because there's nothing libertarian ever about Jared Polis. So if you're Reason, we'll dive into that story next because it's just fascinating to see that the closer that Jared Polis gets to running for president and fulfilling his narcissistic wishes of being in the national spotlight, the guild is off the rose, and everybody's starting to recognize that this state has gone to hell in a handbasket with the statistics I gave you yesterday. And even Reason Magazine, that perpetrated the lie of Jared Polis's libertarianism, is now pulling the seal of approval off of him and says, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. Another news story here, Judge Jeanine. Anybody like a Judge Jeanine? Judge Jeanine on Fox News used to be a prosecutor, then she had a television career. She has been appointed or tapped by Donald Trump as the interim U.S. attorney. President Trump said last night he's naming Fox News host Jeanine Pirro, a former county prosecutor and elected judge, to be the top federal prosecutor for the nation's capital after rescinding the nomination of his first choice. Pirro joined Fox in 2006. She co-hosts The Five on the weekday evenings. She was elected to the judge of the New York's Westchester County Court in 1999, served 3 terms as the county's elected district attorney. He tapped her at least temporarily to lead the largest U.S. attorney's office after pulling the nomination of a conservative activist named Ed Martin Jr. Trump withdrew Martin from consideration after a key Republican senator said he could not support Martin for the job due to his defense of the people who stormed the Capitol on January the 6th. So Ed Martin gets pulled. Jeanine Pirro is now going to at least be an interim there, and we'll find out how that works out, because a key Republican senator buys the lies about January the 6th. The insurrection Martin was a defender of people, and that's what lawyers do. They defend people. They have defendants. But evidently, this key senator did not like Ed Martin's involvement in defending people who stormed the Capitol on January the 6th. So that's So Judge Janine's going to go to Washington, D.C. Good for Judge Janine. I like Judge Janine. You know what? I'm going to miss her on the what's it called, the 5? Because she keeps that Jessica Tarloff woman in line. I swear to goodness, there's the way that Judge Janine looks at Tarloff. One day there's going to be a cage match. And I'm putting money on Judge Janine. Judge Janine rips Jessica Tarloff apart every time Jessica flaps her lips. And it's a glorious thing. So I'm going to miss that. And I guess we're going to just be left with Jesse Waters making sarcastic comments at Jessica Tarloff. It's the only way you can even watch the 5 is if Judge Janine is on there when Jessica Tarloff is there. So good for Judge Janine for the promotion and the appointment in the Trump administration, but bad for all of you viewers of the 5 because there's not going to be anybody there that I think as effectively can slap down Jessica Tarloff when she flaps her lips out there. That would be that'd be a good thing. All right, the question of the day is this: do you think that we should release Joe Biden with Robert Hur, his interview regarding the declassification and the documents that he had hidden in his Corvette? Do you think the Trump administration should release those interviews? Should they play the tapes? They put out the transcript after a 2-month fight back in 2023. What about the audio? Shyla says, yes, quit hiding behind the lies. I agree, Shyla. I think release the tapes. Release them post-haste. Put them out now. Exactly now. This may be exactly why Joe Biden is putting himself on putting himself out on shows like The View to try to show that he has some cognitive ability to speak, but he doesn't. Arloa, just regarding the judge, Janine, Arloa, I saw flash across the screen, said, you were so right about the judge giving it to Jessica. No, that's the best part of watching the 5. I told you, anytime Jessica Tarloff shows up on television, I'm going to watch paint dry. I'm going to watch Bob Ross do paintings. I am not going to watch Jessica Tarloff. She's a mental midget. She's not intellectually deep, and nor is she intellectually accurate. She's a dishonest person that just goes to the talking points. Arloa says, yes, you were right about the judge giving it to Jessica. Yeah, I miss it. I'm going to miss that. Elizabeth jumps in and says, yes, release the tapes. That is our question of the day. Should the tapes be released of Joe Biden and Robert Hur? Jeff says, Jimmy is the grand poobah of Gab. That's nice. I think that's nice. What is my title today? I'm the grand poobah of Gab. That's producer Chad always comes up and it changes. What I saw before the show is not what I see now, but I'm the grand poobah of Gab. If I'm the grand poobah of Gab, here's her question. Can I get one of those Fred Flintstone hats? Remember, he was a grand poobah. Wasn't it the Flintstones, the grand poobahs? Yeah, I'd like a big hat, and I could wear it like that. That'd be very good. We have to call the Shriners or something and see if we can get a funny hat. Release the tapes, everybody says. Should Joe Biden's tape an interview with Robert Hur, special prosecutor from 2013, should the audio be released so that we can see why it is that Robert Hur refused to prosecute and bring criminal charges against Joe Biden? Said he's just going to come across as an old man. He's not cognitively able to charge him, and it's elder abuse to charge him. Should you release the tapes? I say yes so far. Everybody says yes. Keep voting. Love to have you chime in here. All right, one more quick thing I want to remind you, not just about our casino night, but I do want to remind you that we have a couple of weeks ago, Obnoxious Gus, be very careful what you wish for, Jimmy. Be very careful. Why do I be careful? I'm wishing they release the tapes. Why do I need to be careful about that? Explain yourself, Scott. Explain thyself. Be very careful for what you wish for. I wish they released the tapes. I think that'd be good. A couple of weeks ago, we started this a couple of months ago. We had a Patreon page, and we had a lot of great loyal subscribers. And every week or so, or a couple of times a week sometimes, we're putting out interviews that are all behind a paywall. Well, the content of some of those interviews was so phenomenal. Oh, a Fred Flintstone hat. Be careful what you wish for, Jimmy, a Fred Flintstone hat. Listen, if I'm going to be the grand poobah, then I'm thinking the grand poobah ought to wear a hat that's a grand poobah-like hat. I'm going to have one showing up here at the office some one day, the House of Lakey. There's going to be a grand poobah hat collection. I'd wear it, maybe. I think I would. I look like, if I wear the right hat, if it's the right Grand Poobah hat, it could look like I'm one of the cardinals in the Catholic Church. Could look like I'm the Pope. You never know. I'm the Pope of the podcast. Is that blasphemous to say that, producer Chad? The Pope of the podcast? I don't know. Anyway, we stopped the paywall a couple of months ago and decided no paywall for you. Everything was free, and we put it out there, and it's now out on all the platforms. Now, the daily show that you're watching here live, if you're watching on this glorious day the Lord has made, the daily show that you're watching here live is out there. It goes up every day. And also, a lot of those interviews are still matriculating over from the Patreon, and they're making their way on. And we're going to do more interviews now that they're getting over this head cold and my travel settled down. More interviews coming up, and all the interviews, long-form interviews that happen are going to go out on that podcast. So go to Apple Podcast, go to Podbean, go to Spotify, go to iHeartRadio, subscribe. Just type in Jimmy Lakey Unleashed. Subscribe to that new podcast, and you can always get the audio version of this program every day and long-form interviews, and it's all free. I hope you will do that right here. Here is a snippet of an interview we played before, but this is Dennis Neal. He's a former reporter from CNBC and also Fox Business, and he's written a book about Elon Musk, and it was really one of the most fascinating insights I've ever had into who Elon Musk is and what motivates him and the laws that he lives by in life and just his perspective on life and his spectrum that he lives on. He's on a spectrum, and he admits it that he is. This is Dennis Neal, and I think you will enjoy. This is, again, a full interview up at the Patreon, former Patreon page, but it's now out there in the wild for free, and you can find it on all of your favorite platforms. Let's play a snippet of that interview, producer Chad. Go ahead.
By maybe 2026 year end or so, there are these windows when you slingshot to Mars far faster. It's the only time you can make a flight there, that he'll put an Optimus robot. This is this life-size 4 fingers and a thumb robot on Mars. Now that would just be incredible, wouldn't it?
Wow, that's fascinating. I was not aware that the X.com, because I wonder why you changed it to X. What's that about? I wasn't aware of the backstory that this has always been 20 years, been the dream of his to have this kind of one-stop shop all platform. I did not know the history of X.com.
Yeah, and he never lost sight of that vision. It was always there. And I love that kind of dedication, because this Mars thing, he's been pursuing that for 20 years. But here's the thing. When you set this huge dream that's impossible to attain, the media later will say, hey, he fell short of his goals. But you will get 2 or 3 times as far as you ever would have gotten had you set a more reasonable goal. And this can apply to us in our own lives, too. I think we should dream bigger. And one reason is because he's willing to fail. He's willing to fall short. And he shares that trait with Trump. You know, Trump always overpromises, always falls short of his promise. And yet he gets so much farther than anyone else in Washington would get when they're afraid of being seen as failing, you know?
Yeah. We talk about leadership. You read leadership books, you go to leadership conferences. Is the leadership that we see, that in the dream and the visionary that Elon is, was he inspired by anyone? Did he read a John Maxwell book at some point? Did he go to a Tony Robbins seminar? I mean, where did it come from?
You know, I don't have a good answer to that question, Jimmy, but since I'm a longtime journalist, let me go ahead and make one up. I mean, he did have a couple of electrical and engineering professors that were mentors, and he read everything. And certainly, I'm sure he developed an ideology from that. You know, Walter Isaacson, the best biographer of our age, right? He's done Einstein, he did Steve Jobs, and then he wrote that tome.
All right, I'll step in here because we want to get to our next guest. But this is these are all free now. All of these interviews are free. For a while, we put a lot of stuff on a Patreon page. No more Patreon. Just go to the iHeartRadio app, go to the Spotify, go to whatever you listen to podcast on, and type in Jimmy Lakey Unleashed. And not just this show, but the long form interviews that we were doing. They were on Patreon are no longer on Patreon. They're all free for the public, and all you got to do, and we're matriculating some of them still over. And by the way, many of you, when you type in my name on the podcast platforms, you see the Critical Mission podcast. A lot of the stuff I talk about is politics, but we also do one on purpose, and that has not been, while we launched this show, and I've also been fighting a voice thing, I haven't done any of those. We're getting ready to put out brand new content that I think you will find quite intriguing on the Critical Mission podcast. So on all of your favorite podcast platforms, make sure you just type in my name, and you'll see two main ones. You'll see Lakey Unleashed, and you will see Lakey Unleashed, and you will see the Critical Mission. Subscribe to both of them. And if you do the Lakey Unleashed, that's this content right here, this show, and all the long form interviews. And also, my friends, it is sorry, I got to hit the button here. And also then the Critical Mission is about purpose and inspiration. And we got some more content coming up real soon on that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to be here for the first hour of the show. We begin this 9 o'clock hour of the Mountain Time. That'd be the 11 o'clock hour in the East Coast time with our final guest of the day, my brother from a different mother's. His name is Doug Giles. Doug Giles is out there, douggiles.org. How are you, sir?
Look at that beautiful book right there, Jimmy.
That is beautiful. Lion-hearted.
Yeah. Making young Christian males rowdy biblical men. It's what I do 24/7, 365, Jimmy. And so when you texted me this morning and said, what do you want to talk about? I was like, well, we could talk about how unbiblical the papacy is, but I don't want to upset you. Or we could dive into tariffs, which I know jack squat about, or I could step into my mission from God, exhorting young men to get this thing called a life.
I like it. I like it. Let's just dive in here. I know you've written about it extensively. You teach about it because a lot of times if you grow up in some churches, you might think as a young man, you're like, well, my life is going to be filled with celibacy and white hats and pomp and circumstance. And it's kind of it's not necessarily adventuresome living when you look at some types of liturgy that happen out there.
Yeah, you're correct. And you know who agrees with you and I in regards to how young men flee from most effete evangelical churches and Catholicism? A guy named Billy Graham, young skinny Billy. Back in the 20s, he thought he was like, I don't want to be a Christian because it looks like it's for, sad women with kids or crazy old men. And so he avoided church, just like Ted Nugent avoids a Pelosi lingerie party for many, many years. until this guy named Mordecai Ham shows up, and he's an itinerant minister, a revivalist. And so there they are in North Carolina. And his buddy said, man, you got to see this one cat preach, because he's not a pussy like all the other pastors are. This guy, he's shock and awe in regards to how he delivers the word of God. So anyway, Mordecai's up there doing his thing. Billy's at the back of the tent. Mordecai gives an invitation for people to come surrender their life to the King of Kings. One skinny teenager, North Carolinian, came up front to any kind of church measure whatsoever in the world of Joel Osteen and megachurches. That service sucked. Only one person gave their life to Christ, but that one person was Billy Graham. But and he's got that whole story about how he thought evangelicalism was effeminate to the core. It was on, I think it's still up there at billygraham.org. And again, people think that I'm full of too much testosterone fog that God and nature hardwired me to dwell in regards to these topics. But listen, there's a lot of young men that are being driven away from church because the pastor is a tinkerpot, the worship is effeminate, and young men, more than anything, at least they used to, they want to be masculine, and to go to church is feminine by and large.
I kind of look at looking at the life of Jesus, and I don't know if you've seen that miniserie, The Chosen, but you kind of look at Jesus back in the day. He, first of all, you look at the guys in the long flowing robes and the incense, and these are the new disciples, and this is the new apostles or whatever. Okay, good. I'm looking at Jesus attracted a very rowdy lot. I mean, he attracted a bunch of cursing fishermen, tax collectors. I mean, he didn't attract guys in long flowing robes. I play dominoes better than you can. He didn't attract that. He attracted some crazy guys.
Yeah, the ones wearing the robes and the wands and wearing the Liberace outfits, they're the ones that killed him. He went after those guys because they're full of pomp and circumstances. and they worship God with their lips and not with their heart. But again, to underscore who his disciples were, I grew up as a hunter. I'm still a hunter. I'm a fisherman. I lived in Miami for 20 years, and we milked those waters, guaranteed of everything, offshore, inshore, in the cut, down in the bay. We were there like stink on a monkey fishing constantly. And you know what, Jimmy? You were correct. Fishermen are foul-mouthed. They don't follow some little sissy spewing religious BS. They don't. They'll throw them in the marina, but they didn't throw Jesus into the marina. They left their nets and they followed him. And that's who the second person of the Godhead in his incarnation, he said, you know what? I want you bold, wild, and free, boys, to be my spokesperson. Yes, you rednecks over there, you're going to be the ones. And again, like you pointed out, they're not wearing fuchsia robes and have little dainty hats. What a load of crap, man. I was watching that stuff yesterday. It was all on every channel. It's like, look at these cardinals. Show me a cardinal in the Bible and I will eat a tube sock. They don't exist.
It's the modern world we live in. They've effeminized Jesus. Religion has been effeminized, but it's kind of overlaps into politics. You look at the demographics of young men that supported Donald J. Trump, the fighter, and rejected Tampon Tim. It just shows that there's a longing inside the heart of men that God hardwired us to want something that's not effeminate. They wanted us to, they wanted something more than what the modern church sometimes offers, and even what the modern Democrat Party. I mean, you hear the stories of they put up the tampon machines in Minnesota one time, and the middle school and high school boys went in and ripped them down within 10 minutes and said, we don't need tampons. We're men here. There should be a theme that people should be learning from, whether you're a politician or a church leader. You ought to be learning that men want to be led by men.
Yeah, and that's why Trump, just ran with it last election and stuff, because the guy's a baller. I mean, he comes in and he's like, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and everybody's like, no, we're not. It's like, we'll see, and they start, falling over like dominoes, and that does have a profound effect from a leadership standpoint upon the spirit, the psyche of young men. It's like, hey, you can be bold. You can be decisive. You don't have to always have a committee. You don't always have to, check which way the wind is blowing. It's like you can come in there if you know what you're doing is right, and it's backed by wisdom and success and this thing called history. And especially if it's biblical, then plant your feet, man. You look at when they describe Jesus. Jesus said, "Who do people say that I am?" And what's the scuttlebutt on the street, Jimmy? And they didn't say, "Oh, you're such a nice boy. Everybody likes you." They said that guy over there, that Jesus dude, he's like Elijah, John the Baptist, or Jeremiah. And if anybody has a cursory knowledge, just a scant glance of the Old Testament or New Testament, those guys were ass kickers. They were as cuddly as a cactus if you were on the wrong side of truth. And that's how they pitched Jesus. Like, man, he's in that prophetic vein. So again, he's not doling out, aphorisms like some over-medicated Joel Osteen on a 3-day Mountain Dew bender. The guy is a son of thunder, and people killed him for a reason. And until we get the biblical Jesus back into the pulpit, and until we get guys that have more of a Steve McQueen, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood type vibe instead of Richard Simmons, we're going to drive young people further away into, they're probably going to go into, more traditional type liturgies like Greek Orthodox, because they're not wearing, these little gay outfits. Those guys come in wearing black. They got black hats,
It looks like Elon walking in, except a little bit different. We're all black. You've pointed this out too, that it's not just the church that has effeminized Jesus and in what we've done a lot of times, but art traditionally. I mean, you look at David. I know you sent me some links over there, and some of the things you learned about David. David's kind of portrayed as a little effeminate boy who sat on a hillside and played his harp and sang little songs. But David was not necessarily the David is a warrior in his own right. I mean, but he's not portrayed that way in art or wives' tales. They just kind of portray him as the heart boy.
Yeah, you nailed that. And I did a whole book called The Biblical Warrior Collection, where my artwork, I show how I depict the rowdies in the scripture as men and the women as women, instead of these little church ladies like Enid Strick and Dana Carvey's character on Saturday Night Live. These men and women were bold, wild, and free. They were anything but dull. And David, oh my God, man. I've hunted lion. You can see the lion right over my shoulder. In front of me, Jimmy, is a 10-foot grizzly bear that I shot in Prince William Sound, Alaska. And David did it with a frickin' slingshot. I did it with a rifle. David is not some little skinny, shallow-chested, poor, lonely boy, doling out songs and stuff. This guy's a warrior poet, okay? And, people's like, oh, this testosterone's bad. David had testosterone. David, just for shits and giggles, would go over and cut the foreskins off 200 Philistines. I don't know how he got them to hold down for that one, but I guarantee more came off than the foreskin, just because he was bored and he wanted to give it a gift. I don't know how I would receive a gift like that. For him.
What's your mailing address, Doug? Producer Chad, I have a few things to send to you.
I wear it around my neck. Is it a fault? What do I do with it? But that's David, and David killed Goliath. And again, I don't care how Da Vinci or Michelangelo depict David. That young kid was rougher than grandmother's breath, and it shows you also that you can be masculine. And it's not in conflict with poetry and songwriting. Again, I'm not a tinkerpot, but I'm also a painter, and everybody's like, it's such a dichotomy that you're an artist. It's like, says who? Every artist has to be some kind of limp wrist Pee Wee Herman? I don't think so. I don't think like that,
Yeah. Hold that book up again. That's the book people need to get a copy of. If folks want to learn more, maybe they're listening. I've never heard this. My church didn't teach me this. My pastor is a tinkerpot. My worship leader's an effeminate man that wears skinny jeans on a Sunday. What do I do, Doug? What you got a couple of books. You got artwork to inspire them. Plug away, sir.
Yeah, so my Mr. Rogers neighborhood is DougGiles.org, and they can find all my goodies there. I've got 25 books, a lot of books on masculinity, and the art books. I've got the Biblical Warrior Collection and also the Trump Collection, which is so funny, man. I looked at it the other day, and I started laughing so hard. Milk came out of my nostrils, and I haven't had milk in 36 years.
A couple of comments coming in. Ray comments from YouTube. He says, David made wallets out of those foreskins and gave them back as gifts. Okay, maybe that's out of Roger says, Doug obviously has not met my grandmother, meaning the breath of the grandmother. So it is fascinating watching yesterday. And I mean, there's a little bit of, it's interesting. But biblically, I'm like, I don't even know what this is all about. And the media just wouldn't stop about this stuff yesterday. And I'm like, man, why don't they cover Doug Giles talking to Jimmy Lakey as much? I think, or Doug Giles' sermon as much as this little soliloquy that they were speaking yesterday. I'm like, I think we should plug up Doug Giles, put him on a balcony, see if we get some press coverage.
Yeah, I'd have to have protection, man. They'd definitely be shooting at me.
Doug Giles, always a pleasure. DougGiles.org. That's all things Doug, Mr. Doug's neighborhood, DougGiles.org. Pleasure, sir. God bless you. We'll talk soon. And you got it, my friend. Stay rowdy. One of his other books, if you're wanting to dive more into this topic, look up the book called Pussification, The Effeminization of the American Male. And it will tell you how the society, not just the church, but society has tried to pussify our boys and our men. And we're not made to be that way. And that's why there's a lot of confusion out there. A lot of confusion, right? The whole gender thing. You have to say maybe it's because there's nature and there's nurture. And a lot of that stuff brought about by bad nurturing and bad teaching and bad environments that caused boys to feel like they were emasculated. And they shouldn't have been. Boys will be boys. And we don't allow that to happen anymore. DougGiles.org, DougGiles.org. Check out all of his writing. Ladies and gentlemen, in my hand, I hold the globe. We're about to do the meme roulette, the stolen meme section of the show. I want to remind you again about Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com, great sponsor of the program. This is that time of year where a lot of folks, the inventory starts picking up in the real estate world. And so if you're looking for a home, you're ready to buy, Sherry can kind of help you weed through that inventory and find out what you're looking for. That's the kind of that she can do that, but she's going to approach it differently than a lot of folks. She's going to approach this thing that if you're about to make a real estate transaction, you're about to buy, you're about to sell, how can she help you parlay that or position that into something that's not just a transaction, but it's something that's sowing into the future for generational wealth? Real estate is that asset that really can, if you play it right, whether it's your starter home or whether it's your final ranch that you're going to live in until you can't live alone anymore. How do you parlay every step of that in your journey into generational wealth? And Sherry wants to kind of philosophize and strategize with you on that. So that it's more than just putting a sign in the yard or more than just going to a couple of open houses with her. It's all about your long-term strategy. She gets phone calls from families she might not have heard. Maybe she sends them a Christmas card, stays in touch, but she thought they were going to stay in their home. They call her 5, 6, 7 years later and say, hey, Sherry, it's us again. We're going to move. We're going to do this. They keep calling. She wants to be your realtor for life because from your first real estate transaction to the last one, in that window can be an opportunity to create generational wealth. And she wants to walk every step of the way with that. She wants to earn that right to do it. She's not expecting it. She wants to have a conversation with you. Talk about your real estate goals. Talk about the things that you're wanting to do. You're ready to buy. You want to sell. And by the way, not just the strategy of that, but get behind the heart of Sherry Cree. And I got to tell you this, she will, she sells your home. She'll take a portion of her proceeds. She'll donate to the charity of your choice. She believes in giving back. If you're a first responder, a veteran, you served your country, she wants to make sure you're in the military. She will reduce her commissions so that you can have more in your pocket at the very end. She really wants to give back and not just give to you and your family, help you create that generational wealth, but she wants to give back to the community all along the way. You owe it to yourself. If you're contemplating, again, maybe you're not going to buy right now, maybe you're not going to sell right now, but go ahead and start learning about Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. Have a conversation, and maybe you can kind of develop the timeline of when is going to be the best time with you. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Make sure you tell her that you heard about her on the Lakey Show, homeswithsherry.com. Monday, we're going to show up. She showed up on the Broomfield magazine. She's a cover girl. I've got the photo. They put her on the cover, talking to her. She's famous now. Homeswithsherry.com. Make sure you tell her that Lakey's talking about her. Reach out to her. Homeswithsherry.com. Round and round the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows where we're going to land. Here's the meme. Good morning, everyone. Except to Grandpa Joe, who sat in the bed 20 years and allowed his family to wallow in poverty, but he opted up like a mofo just to get to the candy factory. This is true. This is a Willy Wonka reference for those of you not paying attention, not watching the show. It's our first meme of the day. Uncle Joe, Grandpa Joe sat in that bed for 20 years like a crippled man, but he hopped up like a mofo when he got the golden ticket to go to the candy factory. Shame on you, Grandpa Joe. Shame on you. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here we go. Here's Poopy Pants Joe Biden. When someone calls you a special kind of stupid, this is the stupid they're talking about. That's Joe Biden. If somebody says you're a special kind of stupid, there you have it. I think he may be pooping himself in that photo. That's the look that you say when you get to be Joe's age, never trust a fart. And I think Joe might have just trusted a fart in that photo. Don't you? I mean, look at that face. I think he just trusted a fart, and he shouldn't have done that. Regretful. Round around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is me talking to myself, just script only, no photo to describe for you. I'm still tired from all the CrossFit this morning. My friend then said, well, it's pronounced croissant, and you ate 4 of them. That sounds like a conversation I've had before. I'm tired of all that CrossFit I did this morning. Yeah, that was called a croissant, not CrossFit. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, look, it's Big Mike Obama right there. Michelle, Trump's deportation policy keeps me up at night. And there's Donald at the bottom. You got Big Mike going, Trump's deportation policy keeps me up at night. And there's Donald asking the question, are you sure it's not because of an enlarged prostate? Let that one sink in there, kids. If you didn't spew milk out of your nose, you should be drinking more milk. Round and around the world we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. I think they have one more. I think this is it. Don't forget to pick up a bottle of wine for your mom for Mother's Day. After all, you are one of the reasons why she drinks. True. Sunday is Mother's Day, right? Sunday's Mother's Day. We got to real quick do this. Sorry, I have it here. Mother's. Oh, do I have any more memes? Let's see. I think we milked it dry. Do one more story. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. We milked it dry right there. We milked it dry. All right, here we go. National Retail Federation says consumer spending on Mother's Day is about to expected to go high this year. But if you don't have the money to spend on elaborate gifts, moms also enjoy dinner, hugs, and naps. Lots of people go to the gift route, even though it's something like flowers, a card, or a meal. This Sunday, if you're planning on celebrating with their mother, there are 3 things that you can do. Buy a gift, plan some time with her, or give her a day off. National Retail Foundation says consumer spending on Mother's Day is expected to reach $34.1 billion. That's up from last year Mother's Day spending. There's a new list of trending Mother's Day's activities, including doing crafts with your mom, cooking class with your mom, going to see a show with your mom, and wine tasting with your mom. Again, don't forget, buy her wine, buy her booze for Mother's Day because you're the reason she drinks. You know that's true. Practical gifts are also great. Don't get her vacuum cleaner, though. That's probably a bad idea. One report found that Americans might spend less on gifts this year because the budget's a little tighter, but they may spend more on activities and create a memory. Anyway, to all you mothers out there, happy Mother's Day this weekend. Happy Mother's Day. And to all of you people out there, to all of you men who don't smoke cigars, happy Mother's Day to you. Yeah, to all of you men out there that don't smoke the cigars, happy Mother's Day to you. And if your father doesn't smoke cigars, happy Mother's Day to him as well. Get a lot of that to go around. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, May 17th, 1 week from tomorrow, I look into the camera and I say, I see you out there. Join us May 17th. It's our casino gala. Register today. If you can't register and you can't attend May 17th, it's in Broomfield, Colorado at the Omni Interlaken Resort and Hotel. If you can't be there, make sure you go ahead and make a donation. It will count towards our $50,000 goal. In the comment of the donation, riverspromise.com, just write gala or write casino, and we will count it towards our $50,000 fundraising goal for that night. And again, this is not a high pressure event. This is a fun event, but we do have a fundraising goal, and everything you spend there helps benefit our charity. We got great silent auction items. It's going to be a fantastic night. If you haven't registered, get registered because the price is going up soon. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com works also. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope we have the mother of all weekends, like as the Mother's Day. Yeah. Enjoy Mother's Day this coming Sunday. Let's do this. We got to wrap it up. I'm Jimmy Lakey. I got to cue the band. Cue the band up. Here we go. I got to cue the band. That's my job, to cue the band, and I'm on the wrong screen to cue the band. There they are. I hear the band. They're playing now. Some of you men better go buy some cigars because I'm wishing you a happy Mother's Day if you don't learn to smoke like a man. Yeah. I just made that up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, God bless you. God bless America. I'll be back here Monday morning. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, Jimmy Lakey Unleashed, and the Critical Mission podcast. Share this, like it, tell all your friends and neighbors about Lakey being unleashed from the confines of corporate radio. But until we meet again, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.